for fuck's sake! We need to calm down. If everyone talks all at once, then we can't discuss anything.
It's all right, Kaede. We just need to listen to everyone's statements. You can do this, right?
I only went because I was invited.
What? You mean me? But I just said it wasn't me!
Don't thrust the blame onto me! You degenerate males and your thrusting! Ugh.
I'm not a bad girl, really. If you don't believe me, ask my mommy. Really? I have an alibi!
I'm
not
the
the
culprit!
culprit, too. I have an alibi. A little bit suspicious.
I would never punch a foe from
One of the
behind.
guys always was all in the basement.
A true Aikido master would never do
Are
something
you
so
talking about
dishonorable.
me? We're having a strategy meeting together, remember? Rentaro's the one who left in the middle of it.
Robot? Like Kibo?
None of us there could have killed him.
Oh God, what's it to her?
All three of my
I have an
instincts to you
alibi
guys.
and a little bit suspicious.
I would never punch a foe from
What about the
behind.
guys who wanted us all in the basement?
A true Aikido master would
What?
never do something
Are you
so
talking about
dishonorable.
me? We're having a strategy meeting together, remember? Rentaro's the only one who left in the middle of it.
Robot? Like Kibo?
I hear it! Wait a minute, Kaito. Wasn't there someone else who disappeared other than Rentaro? That idiot already forgot. Gonta also left during the strategy meeting.
Yeah, he locked himself up in the AV room and... Hey, wait a sec! Idiot!
Is that right, Gonta?
Yes, Gonta watched Bug Movie to fill Gonta with fight, so Gonta can fight Monokuma.
Were you trying to imagine yourself as a huge mantis with swords for hands?
Oh, come on! How is looking at bugs supposed to put you in a fighting mood?
A terrible idea. Like putting ketchup on a hot dog.
But why did you lock the door?
'Cause Gonta need focus. Everyone suspect Gonta. Why?
Because you don't have an alibi.
Oh, Gonta just need alibi? Okay, Gonta will get alibi. Just tell Gonta where to find it.
The way this debate is going, this will be difficult to refute.
What will you do? Without an alibi, we'll all choose you.
Gonta, please understand that in order to reveal the truth, you must also participate.
But Gonta not sure where to start.
You just have to tell everyone why you couldn't have done it.
If you're not the culprit and we all vote for you, then we're dead too. Our lives are riding on your word. You got this.
Okay, Gonta will try, for everyone's sake.
Fight, Gonta!
Fight! 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 Cut it out, you fucking bobblehead!
Gonta not culprit! 'Cause to leave AV room, Gonta must walk through game room where friends are to even reach hallway.
If you can't get to the hallway, you can't go to the library.
AV room's got more than one entrance, though. There should have been a door facing the hallway, too.
The sliding door across from the rear entrance, correct?
With that sliding door...
No, that's wrong! It's not possible to use the sliding door.
You saying I'm wrong? You got a lot of ass to be contradicting me. Did you mean to say sass? I think you left out an S.
The sliding door always jams. You're only able to open it a crack. The only part of your body that will be able to go through is your arm.
And there was no indication of the door being forced. There was dust on the track.
In other words, the chance they came out the sliding door is 0.
I see. So, I made a mistake. How
It's not that rare for you to make a mistake. Your entire existence is a mistake.
vicious little...
If Gonta couldn't use the sliding door, then in order to get to the library...
He'd have to go through the game room, but I didn't see him at all.
See? Gonta tell you he not culprit.
No, we cannot confirm that just yet.
Eh?
My apologies, Gonta. I do not mean to put you on the spot like this, but... because I promised to do my best, I will fulfill that responsibility. Are you saying Gonta could still be the culprit? There is the possibility that Gonta killed Rantaro from the AV room.
From the AV room?
Oh! I didn't know that was a possibility.
Not only could he have killed Rantaro from the AV room, but also... he would not appear in any of the pictures from the cameras placed in the library.
Whoa! Perfect! But wait, then how did Gonta kill him? Well, it's obvious to this glamorous girl genius. But maybe explain for these dimwits.
First, I will explain the layouts of both the AV room and the library. The sliding door in the AV room faces the rear door of the library. Because of this, it is possible for Gonta to have killed Rantaro while he was in the AV room.
But how, though?
In order for the murder to take place, the rear door of the library must be opened.
Wait a sec. Isn't that impossible? The AV room sliding door doesn't open, so you can't get into the hallway.
If you cannot enter the hallway, how would you open the rear door to the library?
Although you cannot fit your whole body through the sliding door, an arm would suffice. It would be possible if you used a particular item in the AV room.
Shoot! I get it.
Is it the projector screen? That is correct. You can make... It would be possible to reach the library door with it. If you use the rolled-up screen to reach the library's rear door, then you can open it. The screen itself is quite heavy, but that would not have been a problem for Gonta.
Yeah, no problem for Gonta.
Oh my, how honest. If you open the library door, the camera would take your picture.
Actually, the camera wouldn't be triggered just by opening the door.
Shuichi and Kaede's pictures were like that as well. The shutter only went off once someone set foot into the room.
Okay, so it was possible to open the library door, but where does that get us? Gonta still couldn't have gotten from the AV room to the library.
Gonta did not enter the library. He killed Rantaro while he was still in the AV room. So does that mean Gonta threw the shot put ball?
Wait, I say! Why would anyone do something so crazy like throw a... Wait, that's actually not crazy at all! Throwing a shot put ball is totally normal!
Yes, the act of throwing a shot put ball could lead one to use it as a weapon.
Even if a person couldn't fit through the space, a shot put ball certainly would.
Rantaro's body was across from the AV room sliding door as well. As long as the rear door of the library was open, he would have been able to hit the victim.
That's quite the distance, though.
And that shot put ball was pretty heavy. Did you forget already? Gonta easily picked up the heavy manhole cover. It would definitely be feasible for him to throw a shot put ball at his target.
Yep, a walking, talking Roomba can't compare to a mighty beast like Gonta.
That Roomba remark is probably not about me, as I have a variety of custodial functions.
Well, Gonta, can you throw a shot put ball from that distance?
Yes, probably.
You're too honest, Gonta. You're so cool, Gonta. Well, I've heard enough. Gonta's the culprit.
Wait! Gonta never hurt anyone! Not even Insect! Gonta telling truth! Gentlemen never tell lies!
Well, there you have it. What do you guys think?
I would like to believe him, but with...
So we agree, Gonta's the culprit!
Gonta not culprit! Honest!
Typical degenerate male excuse. Rentaro's corpse and the AV room door do line up with one another. There are no obstacles in the way.
If one opened the back door of the library, one could throw a shot and strike true.
No way the average person could make that shot. But with superhuman strength like Gonta's, it's a different story.
Afterward, to close the back door to the library, he would have used the rolled-up projector screen again.
See? That's all there is to it.
So we agree, Gonta the culprit!
Gonta not culprit, honest!
TV room door do line up with one another. There are no obstacles in the way. No, that's wrong! It would have been impossible for Gonta to have thrown that shot from the AV room. Because there was an obstacle between Rentaro and Gonta.
The moving bookcase. When Rantaro was killed, it should have been open.
Yup, that's our evidence. The bookcase door was open when he was killed. I get it! It's in this picture. Here, look. These two pictures were taken by the camera facing the moving bookcase.
These photos were taken moments before Rantaro was killed.
The bookcase door is completely open here, and then it closes automatically. So by the time we entered the library, the door had already closed itself. Before Rantaro was killed, the bookcase door was open. Even if Gonta did throw the shot, it would have hit the bookcase instead.
I see. Well, that pretty much shuts the book on that theory, then.
If that's true, then there's no possibility that Gonta is the culprit.
What? Why are you making this so complicated? Just be the culprit already.
Sorry.
I don't think you need to apologize.
Yeah, that's right. A man shouldn't apologize so easily.
I should be the one to apologize. I am sorry for accusing you, Gonta.
No, Gonta understand. 'Cause we gotta find culprit.
Well said! For a degenerate male, you're actually pretty reasonable.
I hate this sentimental crap.
Why's that? It's nice when everyone gets along like this.
Are you stupid or something? I can't stand people having a good time.
Now he's too evil to feel ashamed for being evil.
We could learn a lot from him.
Don't mind me. I'm not actually taking notes. I'm placing bets on racehorses.
I'm jonesing for a leaf. I need a wreck.
It's good that Gonta's in the clear, but don't break out the confetti just yet. We're out of suspects now. On top of that, we still don't even know how Rantaro died.
So we only know what the weapon is? How are we supposed to find the mastermind with that? We know the murder weapon is the shop hit ball. But where did the culprit get it?
I think it was from the warehouse. I saw track and field equipment there.
Then anyone would have been able to obtain it. We need more information. What's wrong, Shuichi?
It's nothing.
Ah! How do we find this darn culprit now?
Hey, culprit! Quit hiding! Just be a man and fess up already!
We don't even know if they're a guy or not, though, right? Or if they're even human.
Are you referring to me?
Don't worry, you guys. We're one step closer to the truth, so don't give up. Try to remember what happened. We can find more clues left by the mastermind.
Clues? What kind of clues?
Like, if Rantaro was deceived by the mastermind and went to the library, maybe somebody saw Rantaro having a suspicious conversation with someone. It would be a good idea to figure out who knew about our trap. Either way, anything you guys remember might be able to help with the case.
Yes, but are you sure the culprit is also the mastermind?
Huh? Yeah, I think so. Why?
Then what Atua just told me about how the culprit entered the library is correct. Huh? Oh, that's right. Only I can hear the voice of Atua. Then I will speak on Atua's behalf, as his prophet. If the culprit is the mastermind, they could have entered the library while avoiding the cameras.
Are you serious? There's a way to do that?
Super serious, brother.
Atua sounds like a shady weirdo.
Atua says I should continue explaining on his behalf. Yeah-ha-ha-ha! Only Atua knows the truth behind this incident! The culprit was hiding in the library the whole time, before Kaede and Shuichi even placed the cameras.
Where would they have hidden?
Inside the hidden door!
No, that's wrong. Wait a minute, Angie. I don't think it was possible to hide in the hidden door.
What? You dare challenge Atua?
I don't think the hidden door was ever used. While investigating the mastermind, I placed dust on their card reader. If anyone swiped their card key, the dust would have fallen.
We already confirmed during the investigation that there was no dust on the floor. The bookcase hadn't been opened, so I doubt anyone was hiding in there.
The fog has lifted. You've still got a ways to go.
Huh? What do you mean?
The culprit could have been in the library before the cameras were even set. You won't be able to prove anything with weak reasoning like that. Even if we rule out the hidden door, the library's got no shortage of hiding spots. There's piles of books all over. Since the culprit was there before the cameras were placed, they could have been hiding there, you know. They took out Rantaro, then took off.
But if the culprit killed him and ran away, wouldn't they have been caught on camera?
Not if they went back into hiding. Right after killing Rantaro. Then, once everyone's gathered around the body, all they gotta do is act like they just ran in. Rejoin everyone and... Not if they went back into hiding. Right after killing Rantaro. Then, once everyone's gathered around the body, all they gotta do is act like they just ran in. Rejoin everyone.
I'll cut your words! The culprit met him inside the library? That doesn't seem possible, though.
Let's hear it then. What's your reason?
If you take a look at the 3 pictures from the camera we placed near the front door, this is when Shuichi and I met up with Kaito and Tenko, and then rushed in. This one shows the other 4 people running in after they heard... And finally, everyone else coming in after hearing the body discovery announcement. You can clearly see everyone entering the library in these pictures. It wouldn't make sense if there was someone hiding in the library the whole time.
Well, that does cover everyone now, doesn't it? I guess the one who still has a ways to go is me.
Don't worry about it. It's better to think about each possibility anyway. Right, Shuichi? So the real question is how the culprit entered and exited the library.
We cannot continue until we address that problem first.
It's quite the mystery. How did the killer avoid being caught by the cameras?
Almost like they were invisible. Oh, but it wasn't me. My magic can only make you half invisible. Your upper half, to be specific. That's kind of a half-baked invisibility spell, isn't it?
But both doors to library had hidden cameras on them.
How about the vent in the library? Maybe they came in through there. But Shuichi and I were on lookout in the classroom with the connecting vent.
The culprit waited until Kaede and Shuichi weren't looking, then turned invisible.
Himiko is really gung-ho about her invisible culprit theory. Yeah, no. There's no way someone snuck into the library through the vent. I get it! When I set the cameras, I also stacked some books in front of the vent. If someone did crawl in and out from the vent, the books would have collapsed. While we were investigating, they were still neatly stacked the way I placed them.
Maybe they put the books back when they left the room.
That would be quite difficult to achieve on such a narrow bookcase.
If we've ruled out the vent and doors, then how'd the divine intervention?
Gonta no can think of any other way to enter.
Eureka! I know how the culprit got in the library. The front door!
Have you been paying attention? The camera would have taken their picture.
Not if the culprit timed their movements around the camera intervals. Huh? Intervals? What is that? Basically, the culprit knew about the cameras and their intervals. So they snuck into the library between camera shots to avoid appearing in the photos. I know. Beauty and brains. Why? It's just not fair. Mew, what's this interval you're talking about? Huh?
Oh, Now you're asking me. After the shutter snaps, the camera can't take a new photo for 30 seconds. Because I redesigned the cameras to auto-roll the film instead of having to do it manually.
That's the first time I'm hearing about this. Why didn't you tell us from the start?
But I told your little beta boy toy after I gave you the remodeled cameras. What? Shuichi?
I'm sorry. I guess I forgot to tell you.
How could you forget to tell me?
I didn't think it would affect the plan. I guess I just forgot to mention it. I'm real... I forgot. What a pitiful excuse.
Yeah, that's pretty much a lie.
No, it's not a lie. He probably just forgot. There was so much going on at the time. It's only natural to forget, you know?
Yeah.
Let's put that aside for now and talk about the camera intervals.
Each interval lasted for 30 seconds, correct, Mew?
Yeah, sure. I'll explain it again to you mushheads. The 3 cameras that Kaidiot and Puichi placed go off when they pick up movement. From there, it takes 30 seconds for the film to auto-roll to the next photo.
So, for 30 seconds, anyone could have entered the library without their photo being taken?
That may have been enough time to kill Rantaro and exit the library.
It's definitely enough time. You just gotta move at lightning speed. I see. Then there's no doubt the culprit made use of the camera's intervals.
That means the culprit was Mew all along, since she...
Don't be an asshole! I have an alibi. Remember the dining hall?
Oh, yeah. Well, who else knew about the intervals? Now, who was it again?
Shuichi.
Shuichi!
Hey, what gives, Shuichi?
Shuichi would never do that. Right, Shuichi?
You had better speak soon. Your silence only damns you further.
Fess up already! Did you kill Rantaro?
Hey, Shuichi.
Don't tell me you're gonna plead the fifth now.
Oh man, this is getting good! Entertain me, peasants!
Well now. Now then.
I feel like we're getting close to the culprit. I don't know who the culprit is, but I'm not paying attention, so it's okay.
Yeah, but there's one thing we do know. The line between victim and attacker ain't as clear as you might think.
I suppose that's one lesson you can take away from this case.
I cut off the leg before the poison spread. By spring, flowers will grow from the stump.
Say something already.
Your tongue-tied silence speaks volumes.
Wait just a minute! None of that is possible! Shuichi was with me the whole time we were on lookout. When are you suggesting Shuichi killed Rantaro? Were you really together the whole time? Huh?
What do you...
I'm asking if you two were on lookout together the whole time.
Well, I guess we weren't together the whole time.
So that's when Shuichi went to kill Rantaro!
No! Shuichi wouldn't kill anyone!
Don't become emotional. We must seek the truth in a calm and logical manner, or all our lives will be lost here.
I'm not being emotional here. I'm saying it with conviction. I get it. The security alarm didn't ring until after Shuichi returned to the classroom. It only rang after Rantaro moved the hidden door, which means he was still alive. If Shuichi was with me when the alarm went off, then that means he's not the culprit.
By the way, I want to confirm one thing with you, Kaede. Who set the security sensor on the bookcase? It was Shuichi, right?
Yeah. Shuichi was the one who set up the security sensor. What about it?
Did you actually check for yourself if the sensor was set on the bookcase, Kaede?
No, I didn't check.
Did it ever occur to you that Shuichi could have lied about setting the sensor?
A lie?
Shuichi pretended to place the sensor on the hidden bookcase door. But in actuality, he was holding it the whole time. And when he met up with you, he secretly triggered the sensor to make the security alarm go off.
That would cause Kaede to assume that someone had moved the bookcase.
I see, sneaky little fucker.
The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from the sensor when Shuichi secretly moved it in order to trigger the alarm.
So when Kaede heard the sensor go off, she figured someone had tried to move the bookcase.
Only an idiot could make that mistake. The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from the sensor when Shuichi secretly moved it in order to trigger the alarm.
So when Kaede heard the sensor go off, she figured someone had tried to move the bookcase.
Only an idiot can make that mistake. The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from the sensor when Shuichi secretly moved it.
The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from the sensor when they moved it.
The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from the sensor when Shuichi secretly moved it in order to trigger the alarm.
So when Kaede heard the sensor go off, she figured someone had tried to move the bookcase.
Only an idiot can make that mistake. The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from the sensor when Shuichi secretly moved it.
The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from the sensor when Shuichi secretly moved it in order to trigger the alarm.
So when Kaede heard the sensor go off, she figured someone had tried to move the bookcase.
Only an idiot can make that mistake. The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from the sensor when Shuichi secretly moved it in order to trigger the alarm. So when Kaede heard the sensor go off, she figured someone had tried to move the bookcase. Only an idiot can make that mistake.
The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from the sensor when Shuichi moved it.
The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from the sensor when Shuichi secretly moved it in order to trigger the alarm.
So when Kaede heard the sensor go off, she figured someone had tried to move the bookcase.
Only an idiot can make that mistake. The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from the sensor when Shuichi secretly moved it in in order to trigger the alarm. So when Kaede heard the sensor go off, she figured someone had tried to move the bookcase. Only an idiot can make that mistake.
The security sensor was armed, but... The moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. The security sensor was armed, but... The moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from...
Is there... He won't give up!
The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from... The sensor when Shuichi secretly moved it, in order to trigger the alarm.
So when Kaede heard the sensor go off, she figured someone had tried to move the bookcase.
Only an idiot can make that mistake.
The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from the sensor when Shuichi secretly moved it, in order to trigger the alarm. So when Kaede heard the sensor go off, she figured someone had tried to move the bookcase. Only an idiot can make that mistake.
The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it.
Shoot!
The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from the sensor when Shuichi secretly moved it, in order to trigger the alarm. So when Kaede heard the sensor go off,
She figured someone had tried to move the bookcase.
only an idiot can make that mistake.
The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from... The sensor when Shuichi secretly moved it, in order to...
So when Kaede heard the sensor go off, she figured someone had tried to move the bookcase.
Only an idiot can make that mistake. The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from the sensor when Shuichi secretly moved it.
The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from the sensor when Shuichi secretly moved it in order to trigger the alarm.
So when Kaede heard the sensor go off, she figured someone had tried to move the bookcase.
Only an idiot can make that mistake. The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered. As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from the sensor when Shuichi secretly moved it in order to trigger the alarm. So when Kaede heard the sensor go off, she figured someone had tried to move the bookcase. Only an idiot can make that mistake.
The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from the sensor when Shuichi secretly moved it in order to trigger the alarm.
So when Kaede heard the sensor go off, she figured someone had tried to move the bookcase.
Only an idiot can make that mistake. The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from the sensor when Shuichi secretly moved it in order to trigger the alarm.
So when Kaede heard the sensor go off, she figured someone had tried to move the bookcase.
Only an idiot can make that mistake. The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from the sensor when Shuichi secretly moved it in order to trigger the alarm.
So when Kaede heard the sensor go off,
Is there... We won't give up!
The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it. The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it.
Shoot!
The security sensor was armed. The moving bookcase triggered it. As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from the sensor when Shuichi...
The security sensor was armed, but the moving bookcase... As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from the sensor when Shuichi moved it in order to trigger the alarm.
so when Kaede heard the sensor go off, she figured someone had tried to move the bookcase.
Only an idiot can make that mistake. The security sensor was armed, but the moving book... As it turns out, Shuichi had it the whole time.
The sound Kaede heard came from the sensor when Shuichi secretly moved it in order to trigger the alarm.
So when Kaede heard the sensor go off, she figured someone had tried to move the bookcase.
Only an idiot can make that mistake. The security sensor was on, but the moving bookcase isn't what triggered it.
No, that's wrong. Wait a minute. This is weird. If the security sensor wasn't placed, then... we wouldn't have been able to take that picture. We were only able to get it because the sensor was triggered by the hidden door.
Oh, that? Pfft, easy to explain. Well, you see... I guess you're right.
You're giving up that easily?
Yeah, I mean, whatevs. I made a mistake, big deal.
You speak as if you knew that from the start. Even I was taken in.
So you see, Shuichi can't be the culprit.
Now wait just a minute. The security sensor had a power supply, so what if it went like this? The security sensor was set up on the bookshelf, and Shuichi had its receiver. However, Shuichi turned the receiver off.
Huh? How come?
That would get you a picture, but no alarm when Rantaro moved the bookcase.